for quite some time.
Okay.
I'm going to go back historically. In 2005, I believe is the year, I was on the FHSA committee that approved a statewide policy that said if you transfer, you can only play at the JV level. You can't play any varsity sport.
Okay.
That was passed at the state level.
Okay.
The state legislators came back and didn't like it and threw that rule out. This is not a local problem. This is not a local problem. This is a state problem. Okay. This is what has happened since then, however, okay?
Okay.
The media figured out that all those people were transferring. We've always had transfers.
Okay.
Am I correct?
You are definitely right.
We've always had them. The media figured it out. And so they start talking about it. Well, obviously, when the media talks about it, it becomes a bigger issue.
Correct.
That's what happened.
Okay.
Now, I had some numbers presented to me at one time, and I don't want to say what the numbers are because I don't remember them exactly.
Okay.
The number of kids that transferred that were football players was no different than the number of kids that transferred in our district anyway. Actually, it was lower. The mobility rate was lower than our school district as a whole. What's that tell you? We have kids in this county that just changed schools.
Right. That's it.
And not just our county, because it's actually kind of funny because when I talk to the people at the FHSAA, they go, y'all don't have a problem. Let me show you some counties that do.
Well, yeah, we can name one way down south. We got a big one.
Yes.
Well, tell me this. Like you said, we have some kids who just change schools. But there's a problem when a kid changes schools and happens to play football.
No, it's just more attention brought to it. Because if a kid changes,
fair?
No, it's not fair. No, it's not fair. But when you play sports, you're held to a different
and you're
standard.
targeted by everybody else.
You're held to a different standard.
Okay.
Because a kid that's a stellar trumpet player changes school, that's not in the TBO or St. Pete Times or Big County Press.
Correct.
There's no talk about it.
Because it's not football.
It's not football.
You're right.
So it's the amount of attention that's paid to it.
Okay. And that's a good point. And I think that's universally understood, but it sounds it's better coming from you.
Now, do we want to limit the number of transfers? Obviously.
Correct.
We want kids to stay where they're go to the home zone school. We want that to happen. But the reality is people don't always like where they are, and they make some family life decisions. We can't really control the personal decisions that are made, but we shouldn't assist them in doing it either.
Okay.
That's where it becomes a problem.
Let me ask you this: when there is a stink put up about any infraction, whether or not it be a recruiting infraction or kids transferring and whatnot, what steps are taken by your office? Is it when something comes across your desk, does it go straight to Gainesville? Do you handle it in house and then go to Gainesville?
Depends on what it is.
Okay.
Let me give you real numbers.
Okay.
In October, so in what, 4 or 5 months, I would have been in this job for 5 years. The number of formal written complaints that I have received, I can count on one hand.
What is formal written complaint? What is a formal written complaint?
Very easy. The same stuff they say to me on the telephone or say to me in passing or say to me through somebody else, written down and signed. Not anonymous. Because this is what typically happens.
I know what you're about to say, but go ahead.
Typically what happens is they'll say, oh, do you know about such and such? But keep me out of it. Well, you can't be out of it because I don't go on witch hunts.
Okay.
Don't have time to go on witch hunts. If I tried to chase down every single allegation, I would be a detective, not a school administrator.
Okay.
However, written formal complaints, I have to do something about. Now, you ask me, what do I do? Depending on the circumstances. Typically, if I get a written complaint, I'm going to try to investigate it myself to see what I can find out. Then if I kind of know what the FHSA does in their, the types of questions that they're going to ask.
Okay.
So I'm going to do the preliminary work. If I'm still questioning it, I send it up to them and let them do it. Okay. Because they have paid formal investigators to do that type of work.
Okay. There you go. Yeah.
That's not what I do.
Okay.
But I mean, I know it makes sense.
Like you said, first you said it depends on the situation.
Yes.
Some are more severe than others.
And some
take
stuff,
more resources than others.
Yeah. But some stuff is just clear cut a violation.
Okay.
And when it's a clear violation, I send it up to them. I'll be the first person to turn somebody in.
But like you said, it's got to have somebody's name on. You can't come in with an anonymous
Correct.
note saying, go chase this down.
Correct. I do that all day.
Right.
5. Less than 5.
That's pretty good.
Less than 5
In
formal
5 years?
written in almost 5 years.
That's pretty good.
But every time I walk into a room, I get somebody trying to tell me something.
Trying to nod at something.
Yes.
Before we move too far off of it, I want to go back because I had a question that was posed to me, and I want to make sure that I address this with you.
Okay.
As far as the 8th graders, if a young man works with the high school team that is related to one of the coaches, okay, and he's an 8th grader, ball boy,
Contact.
water boy,
Contact.
even though he's related to one of the coaches.
Contact.
So that's a no-no.
Contact. Have no contact.
Simple enough.
It's pretty clear. No contact.
And if the family member doesn't even matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
No contact.
Can a high school coach double as a youth league coach?
Can they by rule?
By rule.
Yes.
Okay.
What I suggested? No. They are setting themselves up for 1, allegations, and 2, making student athletes ineligible.
Okay. Simple enough. Let's go to our spring practice and spring game
Okay.
argument and debate.
What's that one?
Well, why we only play a half?
Okay.
And then why can we not use our whole month, our whole 17-day or 17 practices versus 20 practices, and then use the whole stretch of the month instead of fitting it in 3 weeks?
I'm glad you asked that question because I want all the coaches to hear this response.
Okay.
The very first thing is, why don't we play a full game?
Yes, sir.
Financial.
Okay.
That's purely financial. By putting 2 or 4 teams at one site instead of 4 teams at 2 sites, I'm paying half the cost.
Okay.
Purely financial.
Okay.
Spring jams are a money-losing proposition.
Don't want to do that.
Okay, but we lose money on spring jams.
Okay.
As we stand, double the cost to have double sites.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, so money. Okay, if we look, basically we lose money as it stands. Now to go to full games versus half would be double the cost.
Okay.
Okay, so that you can see where that's never going to work out.
Okay.
The second part of why don't we use the whole month? Because the state gives you the month of May to do 20 practices. And when this current calendar came out, I took it to the principals and the ADs and said, which direction do you want to go? Would you rather it be 4 weeks so you can get the full 20, or reduce it down to 3 weeks and then it's only 17?
Okay.
They said go to 17.
Can you say?
I recommend it.
But can you go ahead? Can you say, well, boom, we're going to use the 20 and we're going to use the full month?
No.
It has to be a majority rule versus with the principals?
Principals.
Okay.
Remember, we do the stuff based on the desires of what's called the Western Conference.
Okay.
Western Conference is made up of ADs and principals.
Okay.
It was more of a supervision issue, really. Because when you go 4 weeks, you can't have any practices on Saturdays. Well, who's going to monitor that?
Nobody, not on Saturday.
Who's going to monitor it?
The AD would have the coaches, and the ADs would have to monitor it.
Exactly,
Right.
And they didn't want to go through that.
So they didn't want to worry about monitoring their coaches or to figure out who was supposed to be practicing, who wasn't, or who was practicing when they weren't supposed to be practicing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Pretty easy when you got this day to this day and you go any day you want except Sunday. When you start trying to take away days, and how many days have you gone this weekend? What about when it rains? Well, was that a practice or no? You see where it becomes a headache? Remember, administrators at the end of the day don't want headaches. They want to go home.
Okay. Scheduling.
Yes.
And you touched on it. Do you do the scheduling yourself, or
Me.
you have? Is that what? How do I put this? How come the coaches don't have as much say-so in the scheduling as they would, or should they have more say-so in the schedule? Put it that way. Should the coaches?
No.
And why not?
Because they won't schedule fairly. That's my opinion.
Okay.
And people will disagree with me. However, let me tell you how I do the schedule. And And I think it's the most equitable way to do it.
Okay.
I get the district football schedules. I don't have any control over district games. They do that through draw and all, right?
Right.
I do the non-district games. And I break the county up into 3 different groups. I look at their records the previous 2 years. Take the total number of wins over the previous 2 years. And I put like to like.
Okay.
If you have, and the way it broke down this year, I believe, and don't hold me to this number, but I believe if you had 15 or more wins over the last 2 years, you were with the big boys.
A group.
A group,
Right.
Whatever you want to call it. The big boys, the people that win a lot.
So it's 15, not 16.
It may have been 16. I don't remember the number.
Okay.
Okay. And then on the flip side, I go to the back side. I think it was 6 or 7 wins or less.
Okay.
They're grouped together. Pretty much, the non-district games are, if you're in this group, you play other teams from this group.
Okay.
If you in this group, you play pretty much teams in this group, and then there's that middle group that kind of fills in the gaps wherever there would be one.
Okay. Do you